as we have been talking about HTML and the origins of it and the doc type element, and I actually mentioned the exclamation point that's in the doc type element being a part of SGML originally, and as well as the comment element, which we haven't talked about yet. And I was reminded some time ago when I read about the drama related to this. And to understand this, this is extra. You don't need to know this really. But SGML, which I don't even know what it stands for, honestly. What is SGML? I don't remember. HTML stands for Standard Generalized Markup Language System for organizing and tagging elements of a document, allowing a sharing of document formats. HTML was the basis for development of HTML and XML. So it is the predecessor to it. It is the thing with, the angle brackets and then the key equals value pairs within those attributes. That's the origin of the syntax for that. And I think it's of note that SGML had, one of its type of elements had the exclamation point in front of it. And that when you see doc type and you're like, it looks different, and you see comments and they look different than all the rest because they have that exclamation point, that's where it came from. It came from SGML. But I think it's interesting to note. In fact, I'm kind of curious what ChatGPT has to say. Does HTML5 implement is HTML5 implemented in SGML? And from my memory serves, when I was reading the specification, they actually broke ties with it when they decided to change the doc type. No, HTML5 is not implemented in SGML. Although the earlier versions of HTML were SGML applications, HTML5 abandoned SGML and instead is using its own parsing rules, which were specially developed to handle the various issues in contemporary web development. So most importantly, the doc type element was sort of mandated by SGML, and that if you see in one of the old ones, you'll see it kind of links to the specification of the syntax for that document using SGML, and you get this big, long, annoying, first line. And I believe the reason that they broke, the primary reason for breaking with compliance with the SGML standard was that line. And now the doc type is just doc type space HTML, which would be, I believe, a pretty blatant violation of SGML. Yeah, Apollo mentions XHTML. So XHTML, HTML4, all of the HTMLs before HTML5, which was created by the WhatWG working group and kind of forced upon W3C because W3C came out with the extremely bad and totally failed XHTML and HTML4 versions. HTML5 also brought style sheets, by the way, to the world. So, I mean, I can't even remember the date, but that's the takeaway. The takeaway is anytime I mention SGML with regard to HTML, it's because I'm old school and I I remember when it actually mattered, and it doesn't anymore. So, however, XML is very valid, and there'll be a separate video, extra video about that, about what XML is, why it matters. So common image formats like SVG, scalable vector graphics, are implemented in XML, still a very valid, very important format. Microsoft Word docs are in XML. XML is worth learning. XML very clearly is an extension of SGML. So knowing what standard generalized markup language is apparently relevant still. It's just not relevant to HTML5 any longer, other than to explain where that exclamation point came from. That's all.